Yes, West Ham Network. It's Holly. I hope you're all well, and it's time to catch up on all things West Ham. Well, it's been an eventful 24 hours. If you enjoyed this video, please do give it a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe to the West Ham Network. Where to begin? That's the question. So yesterday's game against Leicester was what we've been describing as a while for a must-win game, which we obviously did not win. So we've had these games that we've said we must win for quite a while now, but pressure is really mounting on Lopetegui. And now it doesn't seem to be a question of if Lopetegui will be sacked, but more of a question of when. Even people like Jacob Steinberg are talking about this. He posted after the game saying that the dressing room was unhappy and that he would be surprised if Lopetegui is in charge against Wolves, before adding that obviously being 4-0 down at home after 36 minutes didn't previously do it. So I guess you never know. As it stands, by the way, just to cover all bases, at the time of recording this morning, Lopetegui is still head coach at West Ham. But today we're going to be reacting to the Leicester game, as well as just having a bit of a chat through what's happening and what seems to be going wrong. So I want to start by saying I'm one of the more patient types of fans out there. I'm always wanting to give managers or head coaches a bit more time to settle and not want to make a rash decision. But I'm starting to feel very scared about falling into that relegation zone. I think more so than I ever have. Because while we have played uninspiring football in the past, we've always picked up points here and there. And even if I haven't agreed with the way that the manager is approaching games, you know how they approach games. And you know that in some circumstances that will work. In the past, maybe we've been too negative against the sides we should be beating. And it means that we don't pick up as many points because we don't take as many risks against the sides that we want to be battering. But I think there's always been, you understand what it is that we're probably going to do in terms of an approach. And while it might be stressful and frustrating at times, I feel like it's less stressful when you actually can understand what it is that the manager is trying to do, even if you don't necessarily agree with it. They've had their style and they stuck with that. But we now find ourselves in this position where 14 games in, we're still confused as to what it is we're trying to do. And there just doesn't seem to be any consistency that I can pick out. And like I said, at the time of recording this, Lopetegui is still head coach. It could well change at any point, just in case anything changes between now and then. But it wouldn't surprise me one bit. Either way, though, I feel like there's I'm going to talk about it in a bit more depth in a minute. But yeah, I feel like there obviously you wouldn't be shocked at all if he was to get sacked. But I also can imagine some of the things that have happened recently helping to justify giving him a bit more time for the board. But we'll see what happens. But anyway, analysing yesterday's game by stats alone, just stats, it looks decent, but it paints a very, very different picture to what's actually happening at the club. So in 14 games, we are 14th in the league. We've had 4 wins, 3 draws and 7 losses. 7 losses in 14 games. We've lost half of our games. That is not flattering. And that means that we have the joint most losses in the Premier League. We've also conceded 27 goals in these 14 games, so almost 2 goals a game on average, which means that only Wolves, who've conceded 32, and Leicester, who've conceded 28, are ahead of us in this stat. You get the gist. It's not painting a pretty picture of how we're performing and how we have been performing under Lopetegui so far. So touching on last night's stats, on paper, these would have looked pretty good. And you'd have said, oh, we must have been quite unlucky. But the problem is that right now we're finding ourselves in a position where you can't have these unlucky results because it's so important that you get the points and get that win for our position in the league, for our confidence, and for the manager to be given any more time at all at the club. We've run out of time and we've run out of, I suppose, waiting and seeing. I was a big believer in like, you've got to give someone at least 6-10 games to sort of understand what it is that they're trying to build and then be patient. But I think what's frightened me, like I said, is that I can't see with Lopetegui what he's trying to build. You look at last night's game, we had 31 shots, which is incredible. It's the most we've ever had in a Premier League game, I believe. 10 of those shots were on target. We had 61% possession. And these are all stats that we would have loved to have seen last season. And I think that you can look at it 2 ways. You can look at it as, obviously, it doesn't matter. Or you can look at it as the fact that we do have a talented squad, but there's something that's really not working at the moment. And it feels like we need somebody to take that squad and fix the problems that we're facing. We had 580 passes versus Leicester's 375. We had a pass accuracy of 86%, but we still lost 3-1. And obviously, taking this game completely out of context, it's one of those games where if you don't take your chances, you get punished for it. But for me, the problem is that we've just run out of time to keep giving chances, because I'm scared that we're not leaving another manager long enough to turn this around if we hold on too much longer. And I think if I could see what Lopetegui was trying to do, or the approach that we were trying to take, or the thing that he was trying to build, I could sort of go, you know what? Yeah, we're not getting the results, but we're doing well. We've seen it with Spurs. They have had times where they're not getting the results, but they're inspired and they can see what journey they're going on. And that has meant that the fans are a lot happier to follow on that journey and to be patient and to wait, because they have belief that it's going to pay off. I think the fear at the moment is that everything is all over the place and no one knows what on earth's happening. And currently you've still got Lopetegui at the helm, but it feels like if you just brought in a new manager at this point, it wouldn't have even made a difference, because it doesn't feel like things have settled with him. Obviously, he had a pre-season. For the first time in a really long time, we've actually given a manager time to find their feet before the season begins. And we hope that that would make a difference. But obviously, it's been a long time now that he's been in charge, and it's not looking convincing, simply put. We've got 4 winning games coming up against Wolves at home, Bournemouth away, Brighton at home, and Southampton away. And if we could get 9 or 12 points from those 4 games, we could be in a really, really different position. And I think the scoreline, the scoreline is one of the things that could push a decision to be made sooner. Plus the fact that it could be looked at by the owners last night as unlucky, given the stats and the disallowed goal. And I think this is where we're going to face the challenges, because I don't think, first of all, I just wanted to add as well, I don't think it was a foul whatsoever on the keeper when we did get that goal disallowed. But having a 2-goal difference in the game against Leicester doesn't sound nearly as dramatic as 3 or 4. And I reckon if Leicester wouldn't have had their goal disallowed and we'd have not recovered one, I think a 4-0 defeat, that would have resulted in faster action. I'm just wondering if the board might give him more time, based on the fact that you could say the stats and the performance look more promising. And some people were trying to argue on social media that obviously it's unlucky. I think there's a level where the unluckiness has to turn into action, because yes, it is unlucky, but if we're still not picking up these results and we're not having that consistency, at some point you've got to call it and save the season. And in my opinion, I believe that point has definitely come. But yeah, what are the problems that we've got? Let's have a little chat about the actual problems. And you could say it's a rather long list. And I want to hear what you think the main issues are as well with our gameplay. Not just saying get rid of the manager. I want to know what you actually think is going wrong on that pitch. So put your thoughts in that comment section and hit that like button while you're at it if you haven't already. But first, I think the clear issue you can see from yesterday, just based on yesterday's game, from the stats, that we weren't clinical enough. We started Danny Ings up top. Then we brought Somerville on so that Bowen could go up top. Then Antonio came on as striker. Then Fulkrug was subbed on. So we basically had 4 different players in last night's game up top. And despite our record-breaking number of 31 shots and 10 of them being on target, they weren't able to find the net other than one, which Fulkrug's header, by the way, I'm really happy about for him. But obviously, when you have the fury of playing that badly, it's quite difficult to celebrate someone getting a goal. But then the second problem, and probably the biggest in my opinion, is us switching off. And we've seen it in previous seasons. It's not something that's new. But we either switch off or we start way too slowly. And the amount of times that we've conceded in the first 10 minutes this season is crazy. And it's a problem that we just can't seem to get away from, but we have to. And it makes it so difficult, because you just end up fighting this uphill battle from the moment the game starts, basically. Like last night, what was it, 2 minutes in? And that's something that we've really got to stop. And usually it's the result of being caught a bit flat-footed or not being aware of runners. We're playing this high line, and you only need one person to not be quite on the ball or have the pace to match the person that they're marking. And suddenly you find yourself in quite a lot of trouble. But we're seeing simple passes just break through our lines, and then you end up with a player one-on-one on goal. So something needs to be fixed there, whether it's sorting out the way that we hold the line. But a lot of the time, it honestly is players just being flat-footed, or players not marking up, or players sort of stepping with a player so they let them be on side and then not actually tracking them after that point, by which point they're like 10 footsteps ahead of us. So it's difficult. And that's all it does take to cost you in Premier League football. You can't be flat-footed, and you can't give someone an extra second on the attack. Oh God, yawning mid-video. I am absolutely cream crackered. Have a baby that does not sleep at the moment with teething. It's great fun. Would not recommend to anyone. But yeah, basically what I'm trying to say is the way that we're starting games is killing any atmosphere that we've got going for us, whether we're home or away. And again, it's another battle that the players then have to fight against. It's an uphill battle. Why are we making it an uphill battle for ourselves? We need to not do that. And then looking at formation, a concern that we've had for a while, and we've said that we needed to give it time to assess it properly and see what was happening, is the squad choices and the lack of direction. Yesterday, we played a different way of playing, really. We had Wan-Bissaka on the left, we had Tufa on the right. Kudus returned, which was great. He looked really lively. And then we had the midfield three of Soler, Souček and Alvarez, which obviously it didn't blow anyone away, but it's another example that just shows that Lopetegui doesn't know his best lineup. And we know that typically this time of year, squad rotation is important because it means that everyone can have fresh legs and we don't start tiring too much with the games coming thick and fast. But the amount of squad rotation when we haven't found our feet has meant that nobody can find their rhythm. So we're not even giving ourselves a chance of being able to play well or link up nicely. And then on top of that, we've got players like Somerville being left out, who personally I think is one of our most important players at the moment. He had such a threat on that left wing. And without him, it just feels like we've got nothing on the left wing really going for us. And he's always keen to attack quickly. And when you find yourself conceding goals, like not playing a player like that is baffling to me. So yeah, they're the main issues. Other than that, I think we're fine. But yeah, the point I want to make is that we still have time. It's not all doom and gloom right now. We do still have time. I know a lot of people talking about relegation and championship, and I don't feel like those conversations need to happen yet, but something's obviously got to change. I think how we use this time, in my opinion, is going to be key, because are we going to use this time to sit back and wait and see what happens, in which case we're probably going to end up in some sort of relegation scrap pretty soon? Or are we going to use this time to bring somebody else in with the goal of bringing us back up that table and finding ways to make our squad work for them? We've said it before as well that we have a really good squad. We although obviously we need some strengthening of the squad and certain players aren't performing very well, at the end of the summer transfer window, oh my God, I'm literally yawning mid-recording. I'm sorry. At the end of the summer transfer window, we were all pretty happy. We said, you know what, like we've done some good business here. Yeah, there are still areas for improvement. There always are after transfer windows, but we were pretty happy. I think obviously since we're not happy, and it's because we've had some injuries, we've had some suspensions, but we've also had quite a few players not performing. I wouldn't say necessarily that's because we brought in all of the wrong players or that we needed to strengthen a huge amount more. Like realistically, we couldn't spend much more. There weren't many other options available. Like we did okay in the summer transfer window. And I think we've got one of the most talented groups of players that we've had in a really, really long time. And that's why I think that the right manager, while we still have these players, can bring the most out of them. Obviously, if we start getting relegated, like suddenly your squad gets ripped to pieces. So we don't want that. And also, if you're in a relegation battle, it makes it a lot harder for getting players in, especially in January, if that's what we need to do. So we need to act now. We need to strike while the iron's hot. And yeah, we shouldn't be ultimately finding ourselves in this position, because clearly at the moment we're not getting the most out of our squad. They're a decent enough squad. We shouldn't be having these problems. The risk is that if we wait too long, we're going to find ourselves right at the bottom, trying to escape relegation. Whereas at the moment, we're not there yet. We're in the bottom half of the table. We're 2 wins from 7th and 6 points away from the relegation zone. So we are at a critical point in our season, in my opinion, because it's going to go one way or the other. If we can win some of our upcoming games, we can pull away again. But it's starting to feel like a little bit of a race against time, where I don't know how much more time we can give without it really, really negatively impacting us. And remember, in our upcoming games, we are going up against teams that are 18th, 13th and 4th and 20th. So 3 of those 4 fixtures are effectively 6-pointers when it comes to avoiding a relegation scrap. It's crunch time. It is crunch time. And I have the feeling it's going to be a really interesting week or two at West Ham, whether Lopetegui is still head coach at the time of recording and time of releasing this, or whether a decision has been made or will be made. So let us know down below in that comment section how you're feeling, and if Lopetegui is to part ways with the club, which manager you'd like to see replace him. That is the question that I have for you. If you haven't, like I said, please give this video a thumbs up. Just thought I'd do a little ramble today, really, on all the things that are occurring, my take on the situation. And I know that we've all got different opinions, so pop them down below in the comment section. Like, I honestly want to hear what everyone is thinking. I want to hear the nitty gritty as well. I don't want to hear just Lopetegui out. I want to hear what it is you're frustrated with, what we need to change on the pitch, who you want to come in for Lopetegui if you want him to leave. I want to hear all of it. So give me those in-depth thoughts. Give me a good comment, because we're going to be doing reaction videos to them. And I want some good content. I want the tea, guys. So have a great day. Let's make it a good week from this point onwards. Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day. Let's go get it. Come on, you Irons. Irons.